Are the Utah Jazz improving? Let's take a look at the first 20 games compared to the second 20 games and find out if they are. It's actually kind of remarkable. It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. Hit the like button. That's, if you like me, it's probably too early to decide for some of you, but if you hit the like button, if you're on YouTube, that helps us out a great deal. We have a free daily newsletter. After the game tonight, you'll get an exclusive Emptying the Noggin that I put together each and every time after games. You'll also get Late Game Watch exclusive on the Jazz end. You get Katie Heindel's national articles exclusively Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Mike Schrader's on Thursday. And Josh Lloyd's fantasy tips. So please go to lockedondaily.com. It is free. It is free. That's all you need to do. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. What are we doing today? We're at game 20. We're 2-8 in the first 10. We're 2-8 in the second 10. Have we actually made any progress? So we'll do late game watch at the end. I watched a bunch of games. Victor Wembanyama blew my mind. If we get to that, hopefully I'll get to that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the 7 young players. We're going to actually do this crazy thing, which is we're going to stay consistent to the themes that we talked about when the year started of what's important. I'm going to try to stay on message. So here, what did we talk about when the year started? The development of the 7 young players. Sorry, that looks really weird. I usually do on YouTube, I usually do a landscape behind me of like the city, but I'm in Oklahoma. So there's nothing to put up. Okay. Cheap shot number 1 of the day. It's part of the brand at this point. Just laugh. All right. We'll look at the 7 young players. How are they developing? What progress are they making? What are they doing? Lauri Markkanen. We're going to work on isolation. We're going to work on post-ups. How's he doing? How about the team? Are we improving in the areas that Will Hardy talks about? It's complicated at this point, when wins are not important, to figure out what improvement is and whether things are going in the right direction, right? I got it. I'm 100% with you. So let's try to dig into it and look and see, are we seeing things that are going on? Will Hardy even made the comment the other day, talking about Keyonte. I'm not looking at numbers anymore. The numbers aren't important to me. Or probably some numbers are important, but generally it's approach, it's work, it's attitude, it's body length. Those are really hard things for us as viewers to keep an eye on. So I'm looking at numbers. So I actually would argue, if I had a thesis statement right here, the growth of the Utah Jazz in this year of development under Will Hardy in the second 10 games compared to the first 10 games is really remarkable. Really, really, really impressively remarkable. The second thing I would tell you is if you're big into the tank, you should be worried. Because they're playing much better. That sarcasm. But all right, here's what I'm talking about. Let's start offense. First 10 games of the year, the offense ranked 29th in the NBA, had an offensive rating of 106.2. In the second 10 games of the year, the offense has been up 3.7 points per 100 possessions, has jumped from 29th to 16th. That's pretty incredible. They did shift. Will and the staff changed the way they're running the team. They went from 5 out to 4 out. They moved John Collins from a center to a power forward. They did make a bunch of changes. And as has been the case in every year with Will Hardy, he gets into the season, understands his team, not stubborn, willing to adjust. And all of a sudden, you've got yourself a better offense. Their effective field goal percentage has gone from 27th to 14th, so they're actually making some shots. They started the year particularly badly. Turnovers are down from 18.5% of all possessions to 17.7%. You'd like it to get lower. This team is going to be a high turnover rate team. It doesn't really have a point guard. It's got young players developing, but that's better. I thought this was interesting. Offensive rebounding rate in the first 10 games was 30%. It's a staple of what Will Hardy believes in. It is the league is offensive rebounding at a higher rate than ever before. Offense is up. Offensive rebounds are more important. And our offensive rebounding rate is up from 30% to 33%. Here's the signature that I'm seeing. I go to Will Hardy's press conferences. I watch every one of his post-game press conferences. He talks about the things they're working on, and then literally we're seeing development every time. It's pretty great. Like, if we're going to become a winning franchise at some point, you have to have a head coach who's putting in a culture of growth, development, process. We're seeing it firsthand. It's pretty great. Is it going to lead to a bunch of wins? No, because 2-8 just led to 2-8. So if we're going to vote, if we're going to say that improvement is in the win column, I think we'll be disappointed this year. But we're going to have to do things like this where we delve underneath. Like, Will Hardy's fundamental belief is that in this day and age, you got offensive rebound. We crash 4 guys at times. We've gone from 30% to 33% of our misses as offensive rebounds. That's pretty great. We're not getting the free throw line as much as we did early in the year. Defensively, improvement's only okay. Walker missed a bunch of games. But we went from the defensive rating of 119.1 to 118.7, which took us from 27th to 24th. It's not great. I would say this. We were 30th last year. If we can be 24th for the rest of the way, that's a pretty good step. If we can go from 30th to 24th kind of the rest of the way, then we're 24th in the league defensively. Then eventually you hope you can get to 20th, you can get to average, then you get to above average the way Houston. And then Houston's done something crazy. Our defensive shooting, it's about the same. We don't force turnovers. Again, area Will Hardy's talked about a great deal is defensive rebounding. If you've been listening to Will Hardy's press conferences with Tim and Jake on the pregame show, or you just hear him, or just at our events or listen to when Ron and I talk about, he's talked about defensive rebounding a tremendous amount. We've gone from 23rd in the league to 12th in defensive rebounding from the first 10 games to the second 10 games. One area where we've gotten much less good, and I wonder if the coaches are upset about it, is we're fouling at a much higher rate than we used to. We were the 6th best team in the league at fouling, and now we're 22nd in the league in fouling. It's actually the single reason why our defense hasn't made a dramatic jump. Because if you are to keep your shooting and your turnover rate same, and you make the jump we made in offensive rebounding, your defense should get a lot better. Or defensive rebounding. 2 areas that I also looked at, and there's a few others we can keep looking at. I do think we have this kind of funky game going on here where how we do things, I think, might be equally as important as what we do, if that makes sense. So how we do things is equally as important as what we do. Or, in other words, do we get shots in the right place compared to did we make the shot? And are we forcing shots in the right place rather than are we forcing misses? I know that's kind of probably esoteric to some extent and sounds ridiculous, but there is some, at least also from a math standpoint, like, are we taking the right shots? Are we forcing the right shots? Just on the simplest end. So I think that that's important. In the first half of the season, our location effective field goal percentage, in other words, what our expected value of our shots was based on just where we shot it, okay? There's 3 different numbers I'm about to give you here. I'm really geeking out for a second. Was 54%, okay? Second Spectrum has a number called QSI or QSQ. That's even more detailed expected value of shooting based on where you shot. First number was a clean the glass number. We came in at 51.9. And our general shooting was below that by about 2.2 percentage points, which means just kind of like we're basically the worst shooting team in the league at that point. One of the things the Jazz really want is to have their shots be corner threes or restricted area shots. That's a big push for the Jazz. In the opening 10 games of the season, 35% of their shots were corner threes or restricted area shots. And their QS, I gave you the 2 shooting location numbers, okay? So that's an area where I actually think this is to some extent what really actually matters. Like, are we improving in these fundamental ways to play the game? And in the second half of the year, our shooting, according to Clean the Glass, has gotten less good. It's kind of why I just went into such details. I was about to say something not positive. According to Second Spectrum, we're about the same. And we're actually taking about the same amount of shots, 52.1 compared to 51.9. So that's good. And we're actually making them. Instead of being negative 2 percentage points, we're actually 2 percentage points above what's expected value of our shots. Our corner three and our restricted area shot combination is down a tiny bit at 34%. Why are you babbling about all these stupid numbers, David? I think our shot selection could get better. I think we could take less shots in the floater zone, more shots from either corner threes or above the break threes, a few more shots at the rim. I think that's an area where we need to have improvement. That's why I'm bringing that up. And have not improved, truly have not improved in the first 10 games, the second 10 games. We just made shots we didn't make in the first 10 games. That's why I brought that up. Team-wide conclusion. Pretty dramatic offensive jump, which I just showed you is as much because guys are making shots than they didn't, not because we necessarily are getting that much better shots or there's something in the offensive change that Will made that's getting them to put them in positions to make better shots, but they're not getting different shots. Massive improvement in defensive rebounding, which was a major area of focus. Massive area of improvement in offensive rebound, which is an area of focus. I'd say pretty good size improvement. Pretty cool. All right. Lauri Markkanen. Remember the conversation of how long are we doing this? Is he getting any better at isolations and post-up first 10 games versus second 10 games? And what about our 7 youngsters? We're talking about it next as we continue on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by my good friends over at Murdoch Hyundai. Makes me smile to mention Hyundai. I've had such great experiences with the 3 Hyundais we've bought, with all the cars I get to drive. I just turned in my Palisade and got one of the brand new Santa Fe's, really cool looking ones. It's a really nice ride. Got a lot of pickup when I came up the canyon the other day when I needed it to get by some trucks. It also makes me feel very secure in the canyon, driving around all that trucks because it's a nice, big, strong vehicle. Check out the Santa Fe at Murdoch. It's really a terrific car. And check out Hyundai overall. The Murdochs, 80-plus years in Utah. They're in Logan, they're in Linden, and they're at 4646 South State Street. They're going to make sure you have the no-regrets experience and give you everything you can imagine as a customer. And the lineup of cars is absolutely fabulous. If you're going to head over there, please email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com so that I can make sure that you get the locked-on VIP experience that you deserve as a locked-on everydayer. I want you to always have that VIP experience, and you've earned that by being one of our everydayers. So email me first, and I'll get you set up with our various VIP salespeople at all the locations along the Wasatch Front at Murdoch Chevy. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks, your daily fantasy sports leader. Prize Picks brings it to you with some great deals right now, so let's find out what they are for you. As it says on the screen, use the code, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't actually have to even be good at it. You get that whether you win or lose. So what's the deal with Prize Picks? It is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It is a great deal of fun to get into the game in that manner. You can win up to 100 times your money with Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million people are doing it. Prize Picks puts their members first, so withdrawals are fast, safe, and easy. When your pick hits, you get your money as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive it. And there's also fun days like Taco Tuesday and all the rest. Will Steph Curry get three or more threes? Will Giannis get 30 or more points? 200 yards passing yards from the quarterbacks? All sorts of fun things you can do over at Prize Picks. Go join now and make sure you take advantage of the fact that you are a Locked On listener and download the app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5. Prize Picks. Run your game. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free, available on all podcasting apps. Greatly appreciate you. I'm David Locke. You can follow me on X, on Blue Sky, on Threads at DLock09, on Instagram, DLock09. So please do. I'm on TikTok too at DLock09. Trying to be them all. All right. Has Lauri Markkanen got any better? This one's interesting. First 10 games of the year, Lauri had 15 isolation plays. His effective field goal percentage on those 15 isolation plays was 15%. I literally did a show like, how long are we doing this? He averaged 0.4 points per chance on 15 isolations. In the next 10 games, he's had 20 isolations. So the answer on how long we were doing this with the time I said was probably 82 games. His shooting effective field goal percentage has gone from 15% to 50%. His points per chance has gone from 0.4 to 1.0. 1.0 is pretty good, actually, on isolations. That's kind of cool. Really small sample size. Not a lot to like, but really cool. All right, let's go post-ups. Some of these are going to double. I think some of these wrap. I think some of these fall into the same Venn diagram, just so you know. Post-ups. First 10 games for Lauri Markkanen, 11 post-ups. 7 direct posts, they call them. He shot effective field goal percentage, which weighs three-point shooting. Won't be a lot of it. He shot 17%. His points per chance was 0.75. 17%, I told you. Since then, he's had 9 post-ups. About the same. His shooting percentage on those 9 post-ups, excuse me, is 56.2%. So Lauri's gone from 17% to 56.2%. And his points per chance has gone from 0.75 to 1.22. 1.22 is just flat out good. Like, I'll bet you if I ran most efficient post-ups in the NBA in the last 10 games who've had at least, what did Lauri have, 10 post-ups? So let's say they've had at least 8 post-ups, which is not very many. Gets to 164 players, so it's the best in the NBA in that time period. Top 50 players. The best post-ups. Oh, this is scary. Victor's 11th. Julius Randle at 1.5. Wow, that's really high. That's taking advantage of the switch. There's something going on there, actually. Lauri's 17th out of top 50. This is how I go into numbers holes, is I find something like this and then I begin to wonder about it. Something's going on here. Julius Randle's averaging 1.5 points per post-up. Jonas Valanciunas averaging 1.5. Pascal's 1.4. Harrison Barnes 1.4. Miles Turner's 1.4. Joel Embiid's 1.3. Brook Lopez is 1.3. Franz Wagner, Victor Wembanyama are 1.3. Something's going on here where teams are switching and the bigs are taking advantage of the switches. And then if you look at the worst post-up guys in the league, they're actually kind of who you'd expect other than Bam Adebayo. Domantas Sabonis is not that good at a post-up. He's actually bad. They can't take advantage of switches. This is interesting. All right, I don't want to bore you with it, but you just watched. We're going to talk. There's some major trends that are changing in the league right now. We will talk about them this week. We'll do some basketball 101 or hopefully just make you a smarter fan. Because there's some really big shot distribution changes going on in the league right now that I think how you view the game should matter if you're really a diehard fan and what's going on. Okay, so Lauri's getting way better. Again, 2-8 versus 2-8. Lauri, these are the things that we know Lauri can shoot it. We're not worried about that. We know Lauri can come off ball screens. Lauri's one of 4 players in the history of the game to average 20-some-odd points and get 80% of his field goals assisted. Well, all of a sudden, Lauri's posts up in the second 10 games compared to the first 10 games are wildly better. Just keep an eye on it. Right? At game 30, maybe we'll compare 15 to 15. We just talked about our offensive jumps. We got a bunch of guys that are in the midst of offensive jumps. Okay? Keyonte opened the year shooting 32% from the field and 29% from 3. Pretty disastrous, frankly. Since then, Keyonte is shooting 43% from the field and 38% from 3. That is totally viable. That on 38% on 7 attempts from 3 is an NBA player. The first 10 games was not an NBA player. Brice Sensabaugh, first 9 games of the year, 44% from the field, 36% from 3, but 12 minutes a game. Second 10, 22 minutes a game, and he's shooting 44% from the field and 46% from 3. Both he and Keyonte have to get better defensively. I don't mean to just put the ball on one side of the floor, but for this, I'm going to. Taylor Hendricks, third member of that draft, obviously can't play. I don't think we can ever forget what a tremendous setback that is for this team, this franchise, development-wise, player-wise, everything else. All right, rookies. Cody Williams, first 10 games of the year, earned himself time in the G League. Shot 26% from the field, 17% from 3. Then in the next 10 games, it got to the point where he's now playing 13 minutes a night. He made a few more shots, but he really just wasn't. And so he's in the G League. Okay. He didn't get better in the next 10 games. He was overwhelmed from the start, physically, speed, everything else. We saw the flashes, but he's physically overwhelmed. Isaiah Collier played 3 of the first 10 games, played 14 minutes a night. Now Isaiah Collier is playing 18 minutes a night. Shooting is a real issue. 28% from the field, 20% from 3, but speed, energy, he's scoring or assisting on 12 points a game while only taking 4 shots. There's a lot of positive things going on there. Eventually, he's going to have to make shots. And then there's Walker. It's been great. Kyle Filipowski's been hurt for the second half of this. Most of that. Hard to tell on Kyle Filipowski. And then there's Walker. And on the development of the 7 guys, Walker is the shining star right now. We know that Walker Kessler is an NBA rotation player. Of the 7 players that the Jazz are developing this year and trying, the realest story, again, let's go to this. What was the story of the season? Help Lauri develop into a beyond top 30 player in the NBA and become more than just a Klay Thompson 7-footer. And find out what we have in the 7 young players and know you're not going to go 7 for 7. Of the 7 young players, I can move Walker Kessler into the NBA rotation player category comfortably after the opening 20 games of the season, which you couldn't do when the season started. That is a great developmental step. For the other 6, we're still waiting to see. They're inching their way closer. Keyonte's inching his way closer with a really strong 38% three-point shooting on 7 attempts a game over the last 10 games and 43% shooting. Turnovers, defense, got to get better. Brice Sensabaugh inching himself closer. 46% shooting over the last 10. Gary Trent. He's Gary Trent Jr. right now. Can he be more than that? Be a defensive player, contribute, rebound, assist, do some other stuff. But we're seeing it. It's kind of cool. So 2-8 versus 2-8, but lots of development. Late game watch. The Spurs are real next on Locked On Jazz. Thank you very much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz today. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the official ticketing app of Locked On. Download the Game Time app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. When I talk about why I use Game Time, it's because they really just check every box imaginable to me. And when I say that, what is it? So I want seat view. I want to make sure that I know where I'm sitting. I went to a concert in Indiana once a few years back, and I didn't have that feature at the time, and ended up like, these are terrible. Ended up standing all night. Bad night. All in pricing, you toggle that feature on, you get the totals. Lowest price guarantee, 110% difference if you don't, and Game Time ticket coverage helping you out. So, plus, Game Time is doing really cool things. So they give me what I want. Now they've made it even better because they have Game Time picks. Filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching for thousands of tickets. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Convenient, flexible online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. This is not always the easiest time of year. Big hug. Like, I got you. I feel you. I know. Family, tragedies, everything rebubbles up. It is literally like a massive carbonation of emotion. So, if this is a time where it'd be good for you to talk to someone in the winter months, you need a little blanket. You need a mug of hot chocolate. You need someone to give you comfort. This might be a time for you to start therapy. I view it as performance enhancing. How do you get through the time period better? Feel free, why is it this triggers you every year? How do I deal with the crazy whatever it is? It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched to a licensed therapist, and then it might not vibe. So then you can switch therapists with no additional charge. Yeah, big hug. Tough time of year for a lot of people. So find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Today, get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks so much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz. As everydayers know, one of my guilty pleasures, actually, I do it for two reasons, but I partially do it because I love it, is Ron Boone and I get on the plane, and then we watch try to watch the end of every close game that takes place in the NBA. I'm way behind this year, but I'm catching up. So sometimes I'm watching games that are old. Right now, we caught up on almost all the games from the other day. There were none last night, which was super nice of the NBA to do that. So hopefully I'll catch up on the rest of them. All right, here are some late game thoughts, and let me start with the Spurs. Spurs, Sacramento, Victor Wembanyama was the player that everyone dreams him to be. I don't know what Mitch Johnson is doing differently, frankly. No, I know it's taboo and you're not supposed to talk about this, but they're way better structured. They're way better organized. Victor's being used in many better ways than I've ever seen. Was it going to happen anyway with Pop? Maybe. But I'll just tell you, if you watch the Spurs right now, they're structured, and maybe it was just Chris Paul. They're structured late. They're putting Victor in positions to succeed. He's playing inside the paint, inside the three-point line, as well as outside. They looked fabulous against Sacramento. I believe in this late game watch for two things. One, for me personally, it lets me watch every team. Then I've seen Washington. I've seen Charlotte. Well, Washington hasn't played a close game yet. I've seen these teams, and then when we call it. The other thing is I think it tells me when teams are about to click in. The Spurs are real. They're running a play set where Victor and Chris Paul play a pick and roll high left. Barnes flashes to the right elbow. They're high left. Actually, when I say high left, I would say 19 feet out. So they're inside the three-point line. Chris Paul's coming to the middle. Victor rolls down the left side of the lane. Barnes flashes to the right elbow. First option, Chris Paul can hit Victor on the roll, or he hits Barnes, and then Barnes hits Victor for the dunk because it makes a better passing angle. So they ran that at 8. I should actually, later this week, I might just put this sequence up on YouTube with us. At 8:15. At 5:41, they ran the same play. This time, instead of going to Barnes, they go to the wing to Keldon Johnson, who's now on an isolation over on that side. Victor's taken two guys. Barnes has pulled his guy in the corner. Keldon Johnson's now on that right side wide open. They then run it again at the 5:21 mark And now Sacramento's flustered, so they switch 1 through 5. So Chris Paul's man is now on Victor, and Victor catches at the rim and dunks. Victor at 7-11, Victor has a 3-play sequence where at the 7-11 mark in the midst of all this, Victor catches at the elbow on a switch, overpowers a guy to the basket with left-hand drive. Then he gets a mid-post left with Sabonis guarding him, and he fades away at 7-4, and Sabonis can't even get anywhere near the shot, and he makes it. Then he gets it mid-post left with Monk on him on a switch, and he curls the basket for the layup. In the meantime, he blocks 3 shots. With 41 seconds left in the game on the line, the Spurs clear the right side out. They run a pick and roll. Sacramento's so flush at this point, they're running 1 through 5 switch. Wembanyama goes right to the post on Malik Monk and scores. Sacramento looks awful offensively. DeRozan comes down, shoots 3 times, then De'Aaron Fox has to shoot the next time, and then Monk wants a shot. It's everything you had hoped it wouldn't be with that many players, but that's what they feel like. But this story, the game of this story, was the story of Victor Wembanyama. Like, that was the coming out party. That's the first time I've seen him dominate a game offensively late, everything you've ever imagined about him, and it was awesome. So I think the Spurs have clicked in. Dallas, Portland, we watched late. Simons fouled out with like 7 minutes left. Really interesting. Portland's playing 5 out with Grant as their center, with Kamara, Blanton, Avdija, and Sharp. I'm sure Blanton's in because Simons is out. So they're really playing Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharp, Denny Avdija, Kamara, and Grant. 5 out, and they're just going one-on-one. And Avdija overpowers guys, gets into the basket, and scores. Dallas was having a really hard time with this. Late game, Shaedon Sharp, 5 out, decides to try to split a double team and loses the ball for a turnover the other way, and Dallas wins. Have we seen that before? Young guys. Like, it literally, Ron Boone and I are watching, and we look at each other and go, well, we've seen that before. It was literally something we would have done. Portland was really shorthanded, playing Luka, PJ, Kleba, Spencer, and Grimes. This isn't groundbreaking, but literally Dallas's season is Luke was having a great game, so they started to double-team Luka with Kyrie not out there. He swings it over. P.J. Washington misses a 3. Grimes misses a 3. Portland works their way back in the game. They double-team Luka again. He swings it to P.J. Washington. He makes a 3. Like, there is just a level with Dallas of they're going to have to weigh having guys on the floor who can make those shots compared to actually having some defensive presence. You want Klay Thompson out there, but Klay can't defend anymore. And that's where things are going to get tricky for Dallas. But my late game watch story is the San Antonio Spurs. Keep an eye on it. I think Mitch Johnson is really doing a great job there. They're using Victor in a way I've never seen before. They look great. That is Locked On Jazz today. Thank you so much. If you're still with us, follow me on Threads, Blue Sky, or X at DLock09. Also Instagram and TikTok. I'll try to post more stuff. Be better about that. Newsletter. Locked On Jazz Daily newsletter. Please go to LockedOnDaily.com. And if you have not followed or subscribed or hit the bell button or hit the like button, I would love it if you would do so. Have a wonderful day. We now send you on video to the first national 24/7 NBA channel, Locked On Sports Today. And on audio, we check out Locked On NBA Daily